Okay, so I think we'll get started. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion on innovative trends in home design. For those of you who don't know me, I am Roberta Mancuso. I'm the associate publisher of New England Home Connecticut magazine, and now Next, which is our new annual publication focusing on a younger, wealthy demographic, which is kind of key to our conversation today. So today we have brought together a stellar panel of home design and real estate professionals for a discussion on what may be considered the silver lining for our region as a result of this debilitating pandemic. People are moving in droves to the suburbs, looking for safety for themselves and their families in mind, and the way we live and work may be changed indefinitely. I would like to thank our supporters, AIA Connecticut, HBRA, and ASID Connecticut. And they also helped to promote this event for us. So we probably have many members from those groups watching us today. I would also like to introduce our team at New England Home. And actually, I guess who I'm going to be introducing is Jenna Talbot, our editor-in-chief. Jenna?
Hi, thank you, Roberta.
I'll let Jenna say a few words, and then I'll introduce Tyra Dellacroce, Vice President of Connecticut Stone, who will be our moderator today. So go ahead, Jenna, why don't you say a few words?
Okay. Oh, thank you, Roberta. Hello, welcome, everyone. As Roberta said, my name is Jenna Talbot, and I'm the editor-in-chief of New England Home Connecticut and Next magazine. I'm joining you from my own home today, where my daughter regularly attends school from her bedroom, and my husband and I swap respective home offices for the dining table. I think you'll find our program useful today. I know I'm particularly interested in our panelists' observations on the evolving needs of our residences, and specifically their expertise in regards to technology and innovation, achieving work-life balance, and multi-generational living. So thank you for joining us. Roberta?
So yes, so now I'm going to turn this over to Tyra. Tyra's on my screen over, and she will introduce our esteemed panelists and lead us in our conversation. So I hope you get a lot out of this today. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Roberta and Jenna, for that kind introduction. I'm very honored to be here today to moderate this discussion. I think we can all agree that the past several months have been incredibly fast-paced and slow-paced at the same time as we've shifted our home and work-life balance simultaneously. I want to just give you a brief introduction regarding the format of today's presentation. We have 10 questions for our panelists, and we plan to spend about 5 minutes on each question, but there is a chat box that you can feel free to email in or to add in any questions that you might have. And then also please know that at the end of this presentation, there will be ample time for a question and answer period. So without further ado, I would like to allow each one of our panelists to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about them and their company. So I'm just going to go right around my screen if that's okay. So we'll start with Chris Barre from Smarthome.
Hi, Tyra. Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be on this panel. Beautiful day today, and looking forward to participating. I'm with Smart Home and Theater Systems. Technology can be complicated. We make it simple to understand and easy to use. So technology in homes right now is not, there's not less of it going into homes. So it's important that you have a company like ours on board when you're building or renovating.
Great, thanks so much, Chris. Robin Kencel.
Morning, great to see you, Tyra. I am a real estate broker with Compass of Greenwich. I'm one of their founding agents. And although I've been 19 years in this industry, I feel like maybe I've been in it 30 years, just starting from March forward. And my team primarily works in Lower Fairfield County, but we also cover the Berkshires and parts of New York.
Great, thank you so much, Robin. Jeff Kaufman.
Hi, Jeff Kaufman, JMKA Architects out of Westport. We are a small firm, residential and commercial. We do work mostly in Fairfield County, and we've now determined that a large percentage of our work now is actually up and down the coast of the United States. But this is actually kind of interesting because I think that this pause has gotten people to actually pay as much attention to their project during the design process as it used to be. People are a little less rushed. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing questions and the other people on the panel. And thank you, New England Home.
Thanks, Jeff.
I just got a text from Roberta to remind me.
Thank you, Jeff. Beth Krupa.
Hi, yes, I'm Beth Krupa. I lead a small team of interior designers out of Greenwich, and we renovate and design interior residential spaces mainly. We rely on international experiences and really market travels. So, you know, right now it's a lot of virtual market travels these days. So this topic is really passionate to me because I think we're really instrumental in a lot of our clients' unease and putting them at ease. Actually, one of the reasons that I switched my careers from fashion to interiors was my family's travels and how instrumental it was to put everybody at ease every time we moved and how it did that. So I think that we're really, really vital to our clients right now. And I think it's an exciting time right now to do that.
Arnold Karp.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. I'm the president of Karp Associates. We do everything from remodeling to new homes, and we're the current developers of 100 units in New Canaan, 59 rentals, and actually 40 high-end condos. So this ties into exactly the market change that we're witnessing.
Great, thank you, Arnold. And Tyra Vincenta.
Good morning, and thank you, Tyra and Roberta and New England Home Magazine for this important topic. We are award-winning landscape architects located actually in Sandy Hook, Connecticut, and we do work all over the state of Connecticut as well as Greater New England and New York. So we're well located to go in any direction. But this topic is especially important, I think, because as people are feeling so cooped up inside, they need more than ever to connect with nature. And that's always been our overarching goal, to connect people with nature. And now we're finding more than ever that people want to improve their outdoor environments. When sometimes we were the last ones on the totem pole, you know, after new architecture or renovations, it's now seeming like outdoor environments are equally important, if not more important to people. So I think it's a great topic.
Great. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for your introduction. We're going to start with the first question, which I'm going to pose to all of you, but to Robin specifically, if you would answer first. The question is, in recent months, we have witnessed a significant migration from those living in Manhattan. According to the United States Postal Service, approximately 10,000 people requested an address change from New York to Connecticut between March and early June, as motivated New Yorkers look to relocate to the suburbs. After renting for a few months, many people decided to make Connecticut their full-time residence. What were some of the key factors influencing buyers to permanently relocate to Connecticut?
Thanks, Tyra. They sure have come and they keep on coming. You know, I'd say a couple of things. They were motivated initially because there was almost this emotional need to still be connected to New York. My child forgot a school book. I'm going to run into the office. And with Greenwich and Lower Fairfield County being so close to New York, they felt very comfortable versus some other luxury markets that actually take, you know, 2 or 3 hours to get there. So initially it was closeness to New York City. We talked about nature a moment ago, lots of nature and ability to be outdoors. But as they got here, they found they really liked the pace and they really liked other things they were learning about our communities, lower taxes, great school systems. And so people who were thinking about coming out of Manhattan in 2 or 3 years, starting young families, just moved their timetables forward. And others who, you know, had heard word of mouth, great rental experiences, said, let me think about some of these towns. So there's been a whole mindset shift between understanding what lower Fairfield County is about, but also thinking about their lives differently and thinking about a little more breathing space and a slower pace.
That's great. Beth, I know that you have some feedback on this question as well.
Yeah, I have. Well, a lot of what Robin was saying as well, you know, with a lot of the things that were closing in New York, we've had some phased openings in Connecticut that have been successful. A lot of the flex hours that people are working, we're expected to have about 20% of our workforce remain working from home after all of this is over. So I think it's really enticing to be able to do it from a more sort of serene place and have the better school systems and things that Robin was referring to. So, you know, really just a lot of that. Yeah.
And Jeff, can you share with us what you have experienced with respect to this?
Well, this actually is a pretty big deal because people were like jolted into starting this right away and going in lockdown. But I think people found that they were pretty much as productive at home working virtually as they were in the office. So I think that because of that, that's why people started focusing on the space that they are working in their house. I think that people feel much safer. They don't have to worry about being on mass transit. The technology has become user-friendly, so people are more comfortable sitting in front of a screen. I personally am not, but anyway. But I think that there's a lot of interesting things and different requirements that people are now putting into their scope of their projects.
Yeah, I agree. And Arnold, with the projects that we know that you're working on presently, how has this affected you?
We went from 5 years of people trying to stay in New York longer. You know, usually as soon as certainly child number 2 or even child number 1 was coming out to suburbia, you went. We seem to have the past 5 years where that was less of an issue. People stayed in New York, enjoyed that lifestyle a little longer. And sort of once March 1st happened, all the people who'd been holding off that decision seemed to come back out to Fairfield County. So we had some inventory that we had unsold. That has quickly moved. And now we're speaking to people about a little bit about multi-generational homes, which is, geez, I bunked in with my parents for a while. That wasn't bad, but what can you do for me? Because we're certainly going to need an office. And if my kids continue to come back, well, I thought I was going to move down. I now need to move horizontally. I want a place for my children and even my grandchildren, because everybody seems to be a little bit in flux.
Okay, great. We're going to move on to the second question. The past few months have shown a substantial shift in demand for suburban residences and an uptick in home renovation projects. Just a year or so ago, we spoke about homeowners wanting smaller luxury properties with less maintenance that were closer to public amenities such as restaurants, coffee houses, and shopping. Today, our world looks very different. How would you describe the type of spaces homeowners need or want today? And Tara, if it's okay, I'm going to have you open with this one.
Oh, okay, interesting. Well, the types of spaces for outdoor environments are certainly evolving. But the need for sort of the indoor-outdoor living space, which has always been popular, is now expanding to other areas of the property. So I think beyond having a communal gathering space people are also looking for alternate places that might provide more privacy for them. So whether that's just for a couple to have a separate place away from the rest of the family, or what I'm also seeing now is people asking me to create places where they can work outdoors. So obviously, you know, you have to be able to extend your Wi-Fi to a certain distance outside, but people actually do want to sit outside in nature and do their work, you know, when weather allows. The other thing that we're finding too is, and that we love doing regardless, is creating areas for people actually to use their whole property. So to create walking paths that might go around the perimeter, so that, and also thinking about active play for kids too. So, you know, depending upon who the client is and what their particular needs are, there's certainly a varied range of things that we are asked to include. But I think more than ever, people are very focused on creating a variety of spaces rather than just sort of, oh, well, let's have a patio off of the back. You know, in the past few years, certainly fire pits have become a big thing. And now we're finding that clients who have teenage children are finding this even more important, because it's very hard to keep teenagers away from other teenagers. And they want to give them a place to gather where they can do some social distancing. So these kinds of elements seem to be a great thing. And I also want to emphasize that a lot of people want to grow their own food as well. So while in the past few years we have seen an uptick in requests for vegetable gardens, we're seeing like that's almost, you know, everyone wants that included. So, so I think that those are important things that we're seeing, but a variety of spaces and maximizing the use of property. So that would be my take.
That's great. And Robin, I'm sure you have, you know, some firsthand knowledge of this.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting. In the old days, kitchens and family rooms were the most important rooms that buyers looked at. And now everyone's not saying, where's the library or office? They're just saying, where in this space can all of us have, as Tara just mentioned, some space, privacy, that we won't be interrupted to work. So if you think about it, really all you need is good connectivity and place to put your laptop and no noise in the background. And so having a multitude of public spaces that can serve as home offices is just the #1 priority. Buyers walk in the front door, and that's the key thing they're looking for. So there you have it, change in definition of office.
And that's sort of a perfect opportunity, Chris, for you to sort of step in and tell us what you're seeing or what's being requested of you with respect to technology to support this.
Yeah, so when COVID hit, we had a number of clients who immediately suffered like poor Wi-Fi, poor networking connections, and that was driven somewhat by the cable companies having to build up infrastructure to service that. Once that was taken care of, then we started looking into the house, into the home. And I'll echo everybody else that you need multiple places to work. The problem with doing a network on your own or plugging in extenders is that you aren't able to manage smart home systems in a network like that, and you don't necessarily have the security. So what we would do is go in and install a very secure router and create a network that not only services the main home, but can service any outbuildings on the property. And with high-powered outdoor access points, we can service the perimeter of the property, so that, and it's the same network. You're not jumping from network to network. The network's managing your device, so it makes it very fluid and very easy to work. And then as we bring those outdoor, you know, sort of the indoors, outdoors, we have TVs that'll operate to 24 below zero and up to 104 degrees. So as we extend the season for those rooms, we have electronics that will do that, as well as sound. So you might want, if you have walking paths around the property, you might want what we call the Disney effect, small little speakers sort of everywhere, where you have this music playing and it's sort of more of an experience than just walking around your backyard. So kind of an escape that you would have, since now you've now dedicated potentially a room or two in your house where it's all about work.
Chris. The third question is, many Americans have now adapted to working from home. Some people feel that this new normal provides a better work-life balance, while others anticipate a return to their office environment. Businesses have also adapted, and many companies are contemplating permanent changes, such as reducing overhead through smaller office space or possibly rotating employee shifts between the office and home. What changes do you foresee in the demands for new office space in the residential market? And then secondly, what sort of technology, this will go to you, Chris, can we expect to see to help employees work both at home and at the office? And Robin, I was going to ask you to start with this question, please.
Yeah, you know, what comes to my mind is duplication of what you have when you went to work. I think the phrase that really resonates with me is that we're not working from home, but we're living from work. Unfortunately, obviously there's all kind of ramifications with that mindset, but right now that seems to be the mindset that we're in. And so, you know, having lots of natural light is percolated up, which is why new construction is becoming more and more a demand of buyers, or I should say a preference. And we have to go back to that technology and back to the flexibility. And again, with the outdoor spaces and how outdoor is really becoming more important, probably because it's very soothing as well as being a good escape from the home.
And Arnold, do you have any feedback that you can share with us regarding what you see in terms of changes from a development standpoint?
Yes, there will be a whole new generation of houses that Jeff will get asked to design. Tyra will then, you know, figure out with Jeff the inside, outside. That the people are really starting to look holistically at where they're living. Right now, the big demand is, how do I extend the beautiful weather we've been having? Well, we're in the Northeast, so between fire pits, propane heaters, expanded rooms, you know, I have people who, you know, never used a part of their house, who all of a sudden are saying, geez, you know, that library I never used at home, that's no longer a library. That's actually the office that my daughter, son-in-law, somebody else is using. We need Chris's Wi-Fi throughout the house. So it's really taking a place where certain people left in the morning and came home late at night and may not have used their entire space to, okay, I need every space to sort of integrate nicely with each other. Right now, we're busy sort of taking apart people's older designs and making them a little bit more functional. For a while, everything was open space. Now we need people who are putting walls up in rooms over garages so that there can be 3 workspaces rather than a large empty space that, you know, one person was working from. So I think people are starting to realize that, you know, they like working from home, but privacy becomes a big, big issue.
And can I add something to that, Tyra?
Arnold, aren't you also? Yeah. Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, Tyra?
Yeah,
So-
yes, please,
okay.
go ahead, Beth, sorry.
Yeah, so just adding on to what Tyra was saying about the outdoors too, from the design perspective, we have a lot of heated furniture elements too that we're adding to those spaces that's extending the life. So what Chris was saying about the TVs and the, you know, the temperature grade, the heated furniture is also doing that as well. So it's just really extending the life of those spaces for the time. Also, one of the wellness things, we're trying to get a lot of the working areas near to natural sunlight, if we can, for the wellness aspect. And we're also finding if we can get our clients to have 2 or 3 places to relocate throughout the day. From a wellness perspective, mentally, it really helps. And so we're trying to find them 2 to 3 sort of video chat good looking sort of background spaces too. You really need to get up and move and change your mental environment too. It's just a whole wellness thing. You really can't have one workspace in your home and expect that to function for you anymore, or you'll just go a little crazy. So yeah, there's a lot of wellness to it, and air purity quality and acoustical panels. So there's just a lot of wellness going on right now too.
And Tara, were you adding something?
Yes, I just wanted to mention both to Jeff and Arnold too, and everyone here, we're seeing an increase in requests for pool houses. So even if someone has a pool now, all of a sudden they want a pool house. People want, as Beth just said, other destinations to go to, so that they can use those as alternate office spaces, or if their kids are home from college, they have a place where they can go and be separate. We're also having clients who are renovating outbuildings and turning them into spaces that they can alternatively use. So, and then our job, of course, is to make connections, between these spaces as well, so that they all feel well integrated. But so it's that idea of alternate structures on properties that are, I think, on the rise as well.
Thank you. And Chris, would you please respond to the technology piece about how, what type of technology we can expect to see to help people work both at home and at the office?
Sure. So I talked a lot about networking, and that's very important to have a really well-designed network for the home. With the advent, it's been around for a while, IP telephone service. We now, for the corporate arm of Smarthome, which is STS Corporate, we're now installing phone systems in small offices where we can install desk phones in the home and have them ring real time, so that the business operates as if everyone's in one place. So that's a real important thing for a lot of family-owned businesses and small businesses where people live in surrounding communities and towns. And that's a way for the small business owner to rotate employees in and out of the office space and reduce exposure basically while we get through the pandemic. In the house itself, there's the environmental part of it, lighting and that sort of thing. So with the combination of good lighting fixtures and systems, you can actually change the colors of lights now. And with a good control system, you literally can extend sunset. So as the sun sets, the lighting comes up as the sun is going down, and we maintain sort of this brightness right through 6:30 or whenever you want to end your workday. And we could do that in one space or throughout the home, depending on the lighting designer we're working with and the fixtures that we use. And then lastly, I would say people need a place to escape. So don't discount a home theater. Don't discount what a projected image on a screen. It's sort of way different than watching a TV, and it will transport you. And it's a place where you can go for an hour and a half or 2 hours and completely separate and completely recharge and come back. So that's what I would say is probably the most important points there.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, moving on to our next question. Our homes now serve multiple purposes as we look for a place to work, exercise, entertain, study, distance learn, or even add space for our adult children or aging parents. What is your perspective on how homeowners can prioritize these needs? For those looking to renovate existing properties, how can rooms or spaces be designed for more than one purpose? And Robin, if you would mind opening this one.
Yeah, I think there's probably 3 key factors here, and it would be looking at every room to say, is the proportion good? Is the natural light good? And does it have the technology infrastructure? If you've got those 3 things in any space, then any space can become whatever you need it to be. I've even seen buyers recently taking garage bays and fitting them out so that they could be either a home office or a gym or a yoga studio or, the band room, because you no longer can go practice with your bandmates. So it's creativity, but it actually gets back down to classic principles.
Great, thank you so much. Tara, can you respond at all to how on the exterior, in terms of renovating existing properties, how people are using outdoor spaces for more than one purpose?
Yes, I think that, we're finding that, that grand outdoor space, if you will, where families gather, the classic kind of outdoor living space is something that can be used just to step out onto in the middle of the day. If you don't have the opportunity to create multiple places on your property, then it necessitates using that one grand space in a way where you can create sort of separate seating areas within it so that you can dine just for people outside, or you can choose, a larger area to have a bigger table. The outdoor kitchens, of course, are becoming a great thing, especially kids might use it, to do some homework outside. I think that when we're all cooped up inside for so long, it's important to be able to get outside and, just connect with nature a little bit, hear the birds, feel the wind on your face. And so whether that is, just taking a walk around your property or creating more multi-use spaces within one very large space, I think that's important for us to think about, just in terms of how to program each and get the maximum use out of each property so that it can respond to the family's needs.
Great, thank you so much. And Jeff, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this topic.
Well, I think that people are looking for adaptable space. It's interesting because a lot of people are looking for their individual space for maybe the husband and the wife. Then now we've dealing with kids that are going to school virtually. They need their own space and they need a quiet space. But people are now paying attention to what their air circulation is in their house. They're looking for outdoor spaces. Outdoor spaces is huge because of this air circulation thing in people's heads. But we're also using the idea of doing enclosed porches now, which that pretty much disappeared. People didn't really hang out because they only wanted air conditioning. But as far as overlapping, can a bedroom be used as a study or vice versa? Can the office also be the gym as well as the office? And kitchens are actually becoming more important because people that weren't actually so interested in cooking before now want to learn how to cook. So I think people are they're working at home, they're spending a lot of time, they're paying attention to the fact that rooms need to be redone and things like that, but they're also paying attention to their mental health, which is like picking up a hobby that they wanted to do before. So I think this is it's pretty interesting. The conversation is completely different with people now than when people were going to work, coming home and just sleeping there and then going to work again.
And Beth, how from both a wellness perspective and from an interior design perspective are you approaching trying to design rooms with more than one purpose?
Well, I guess the two different questions. I'm glad Jeff mentioned the kids, because I think it's important that we not lose sight that every family member needs to have their own place to feel calm and serene and have a respite. And I think at the end of all of this, the most important thing is that we keep our relationships and family intact and not worry so much about how much school learning is actually getting done this year. It's just going to be a little bit of a crazy year. And then as far as shared spaces go, we are seeing a lot of mobile partitions, staggered schedules. The creativity that's coming out of the moms with school-aged children is just amazing. Luckily, I'm past that. I'm learning from them. We're actually, we're doing a renovation for a townhouse in Westport, and we're turning a dining room into a sort of a workspace banquette. where she's going to be doing work. And at night when she entertains, it's kind of a Parisian, dining experience. And then we have a bar in the corner. So it's going to flex from day to night. We're actually adding some insulation to the top of the garage while we have some renovation going on in the bathroom and we have access to it. Just, it may turn into a game room in the future. We have access, we're going to do it. So, all these things are being thought of now where we wouldn't have thought of that a year ago. But it's like we have access, we might as well, because it's probably going to happen, So yeah, it's just crazy. All these extra spaces are just being used for all these creative endeavors now. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving to our next question. Many people with parents, grandparents, or loved ones in nursing homes experienced loss this year. In addition, communication was particularly challenging for many families as facilities had to isolate patients for safety reasons. What changes do you foresee happening with our elderly? How will this affect residential construction, design, development? And then for Chris, what sort of technology can be used to bring separated families back together? So we will start this question, if it's okay, with Arnold.
What we're finding is where, and I referred to it earlier, the multi-generational house. Most people who are on this Zoom meeting, if I turned to Robin or Beth and said, geez, we're going to need to put you into a nursing home, that is a phrase that is not going to be used and thought of well for this generation based on what the last 6 months has taught us. So all of a sudden the houses are becoming more multi-generational. My parents are moving from Ohio. Can we take garage space? Can we build a pool house? Can we remodel existing space? Because I am going to have my parents, my in-laws, somebody in the house that I wasn't planning for when we originally bought it. The whole elder care thought has changed, and people are now bringing it back into the home, where for the last 30 or 40 years it was, as you aged, yes, aging in place was nice, but that sort of isolated you. You went to a facility that's entire thought was, okay, it's a place to put older people. Now, as people age, I believe they will be coming back to their children, and in certain cases, even a grandchild, to live, because the thought process is, get them closer to me, I want to see them. And there are people who haven't seen loved ones in, truly 6 months. So we're in the process of speaking to a lot of different clients on how to rework existing space. We recently had done a house with the TV show This Old House. When we finished it, fortunately, the person who bought it ahead of all this largely bought it because it had an elevator and they could let their father-in-law live in the house with them. It was bigger than the house that they owned just down the street, but they knew that there was a health issue. And so they were the best planned pandemic people we knew.
Thank you, Arnold. Jeff, would you be able to respond to this one?
The multi-generational thing is interesting because, first of all, no one knew how long this was going to take, and a lot of people whose parents were living in senior living situations and can't really spend any time with them or see them. It's incredibly lonely for an older person. So a lot of people are like rethinking, well, we shouldn't have left them there. We should have brought them back into our house. So that does become another issue. And because it means as soon as you move them into your house, they may need more caretakers, but they also need their own space. Everybody, along with all this and all these people were finding spaces for working and schooling and all that, everybody still needs their own space to go to. Like, where do I escape now? And I think that's why, and going back to the outdoor thing, I think it's why people end up doing a lot of going, just leaving and going outside just to get away from things.
I agree. And Chris, would you be able to share with us any thoughts you have on how technology can be used to bring separated families together, especially with regards to the elderly or older children?
Sure. So, if people stay in separate residences, this might be as simple, instead of doing a FaceTime call on your small phone, that we bring some sort of video conferencing technology to a larger TV in each person's space. And so it's much more of a comfortable experience. Within the multi-generational household, I think there's a lot of reliance. So if you have elderly parents living with you, they're going to start to rely on you more. So let's make their space, their private space, easy for them to use. And one thing that comes to mind is you see people using the Comcast voice remote. So voice recognition is getting very accurate now, and we can install systems that allow very simple voice commands to control the space and make things happen. And so for instance, if you, and this goes back to the last question, but if I have a space that is an office by day, but dinner by night, I can have a one button press or one voice command to set the lighting, set the shades, set the music, set the ambiance of that space. So that same technology can be used in different areas of the home to make those spaces easier. And it then, I think, takes that pressure off, that reliance. So there's some independence, but you're under the same structure, and there's just less of the, there's still interaction, but maybe it's not to the point where it causes some stress and anxiety.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, our next question. There seems to be a greater appreciation for supporting local artisans, craftsmen, and businesses, as well as choosing sustainable building materials. What perspective can you share with us about the shifts in the design and specification of local, regional, or national materials? And Tara, I was hoping to start this question with you.
Sure. We're finding actually that materials that generally we might specify outdoors, including a lot of different kinds of stone, are not available any longer because they have to be shipped from India or China or France or Italy. And lead times, if you can get them at all, are just daunting. And I'm sure, Tyra, that you've seen this also. So we're finding that the availability of local sources, so sourcing things locally, is more of a win. So we're steering our clients in that direction. There's some education that goes along with it because it's not always the least expensive option, but the availability of local materials is, especially in terms of stone. And at the beginning of this pandemic, we also had trouble just sourcing plant material, just because so many businesses were affected by this in terms of whether, the growers weren't digging plants, people weren't allowed to travel state to state, or there were quarantines in effect. So it took quite a while in our industry, well into June and July for supply to catch up with demand, even in terms of plant materials. So, and a lot of it too was people didn't know what the demand was going to be. So that was a big factor. And I think that people are much more sensitive to using local artisans, more focused on supporting local businesses around us. So we want to make sure that people are, when they think about it that way, they're willing to spend a little bit more money to be able to take care of the local contractor. So I think that's something. And I just wanted to quickly go back to the accessibility issue, because we now have, no one in recent memory has asked me for accessibility outdoors. And literally in the last month, I have 3 clients that have asked me to design outdoor environments on very hilly properties to create pathways for their elderly parents to be able to access all the different spaces, as well as to be able to come into the home without steps. So it's been something that, you know, on public spaces, you know, we've had to address in the past, and I'm sure that Arnold sees that in a lot of the work that he might do, but we now, just on regular residential projects, also are much more attuned to, you know, providing accessibility. So just wanted to mention that as well.
Thank you. Beth, would you
Sure.
be kind enough to answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's no secret how small business has been affected so much more heavily than large businesses. And I can think of 3 clients right now who are just placing such great emphasis that we shop as local as we can for really everything from building materials to art to you know, having, you know, furniture we really always do pretty, you know, I would say 90% anyway in, you know, made in North Carolina, America, or, you know, but even more locally if we can. So yeah, I think everybody's just very cognizant to shop as local as we can. And I think also the pandemic has made people look a lot more internal, and from a trend perspective, we're moving a lot further away from any kind of superficial trends, a lot more nature. Even it's funny, even bringing like curves indoors. It just, the whole thing is just kind of swinging into nature, indoor, outdoor, you know, what Tyra was saying as well. So I think people are getting very introspective. So there's a lot of silver linings that are coming out of this, you know, horrible thing. So I think we will be stronger on the other side of it.
And Arnold, I'm sure you buy so many different types of materials. We're curious to know how this affects your business.
It has dramatically affected our business. Nobody, you know, a lot of our products come from overseas. Lighting comes from China. So when people get very frustrated, and that's why Craftsmen have reappeared when they can't get something, when we say, geez, that fixture is back ordered for 7 months because between things getting tied up in the ports, things not being manufactured, lots of the plants closed down for 2 or 3 months. So that getting raw product is very difficult. So that when people are talking about how quickly can work be done, we're figuring in the difficulty of getting some of the materials. In the good old days, the warehouse had the materials and then everybody went to, okay, we'll keep 2 on the shelf. And now it's, geez, we've used those 2, but we don't know when our next shipment is coming. So it has been a tremendous change in the supply chain of where things come from. And, you know, the biggest one we have seen is lighting fixtures. Very little of that is made in the United States. So that when people say, I want to work with Beth and do lighting, the problem we have is sometimes just sourcing it. So it has been an excellent time for local craftsmen because those are the people who can produce some of this stuff. Yes, it may cost a little bit more, but we can actually get it for clients. But, you know, lumber is up, not to any other reason, but it has doubled. If somebody called us to build a deck, pressure treated lumber has doubled in price if you can get it. And a lot of the lumber yards don't even have it anymore. So it's been an interesting change of how quickly can we do work? Well, let us check the supply chain on what you need.
So thank you, Arnold, for that. So that's a great segue into our next question, which is about the supply chain. And Chris, this one will go to you. The pandemic is a global challenge that has affected manufacturers and distributors around the world. How has this affected the supply chain, and what short-term and long-term effects do you anticipate?
So, you know, things seem to be going swimmingly there for a little bit, and then electronics fell off the cliff. So part of it has to do with a lot of the manufacturing happens over in China, Singapore. And so one of the things we're having a hard time getting are what's called an audio video receiver, which is really the guts of a home theater or music system in the house. And I'm right now, I cannot get a delivery time from the manufacturer. They're not sure when they're going to ship. And my supplier is hundreds of units short and waiting to get those. And there's really, without getting into high-end audio, there's really no way to do anything else, really. So I think that's relatively short-lived. I think the electronics will catch up. I think we'll get that back up. I think what is going to happen is we'll see a shift, and this is really on the back end of my business of what becomes the predominant source of what you watch. And it's going, there's been this move to smart TVs and smart functionality. And now you can almost get everything you want in the smart apps on a TV. So it changes the design a little bit on what we do. So I think there'll be a shift. I think systems will become simpler. I think you'll have to buy fewer components to still get a pretty good experience. It'll still go back to you need to rely on great Wi-Fi in your house and a network and that sort of thing. And that was delayed for some time. That appears to be catching up. So I think as we go forward, although it's slower, so I'm where I could install in 2 to 3 weeks, it's now 4 to 8 weeks. I'm hoping to see that improve as we go forward.
Thank you, Chris. This next question, Tara, I'd like to pose to you. It's about outdoor environments, and you've touched on it briefly before. Outdoor environments are shaping the way we can safely entertain and interact with family and friends year-round, even through the cold winter. What are your thoughts on how outdoor living environments will evolve moving forward? What are the new trends or the new requests that you're addressing for your clients as they spend more time at home?
I mentioned to Tyra this morning that I saw an article that addressed this very issue in the Wall Street Journal this morning that was focusing in on how people are trying to extend their time outdoors with, as you would typically imagine, with outdoor heaters and fireplaces and fire pits. I mean, one of the big questions that we have from clients in outdoor environments, not only with fire pits, recently we've had a big surge in people asking for fireplaces. So people actually want to burn wood. But aside from that, we're designing a lot of properties that have both options. So you might have a fireplace now as a very important element as part of an outdoor, main entertaining area. And then there might be a destination fire pit a little further afield. So there might be an area for the adults to gather around, and then there might be an area for the kids, not just saying that kids are the only ones that like fire pits, but the ability to be able to press a button and go outside and be warm. I've got clients who are wanting to have Thanksgiving dinner outdoors. So obviously outdoor heat lamps have become very important. We have clients installing them on outdoor pergolas and covered structures. So we're becoming much more familiar with, what's available and what we should be specifying that's beautiful and low profile to be able to create really nice environments that people can use longer. We also have clients that want to now move their spa and pool equipment into indoor insulated structures so that they can use those features much longer as well. You want to be able to use that year round. You need to have your spa equipment in a heated environment, obviously, so that the pipes don't freeze. So those are important aspects of the outdoors that we're seeing. We also have gotten more requests for heated outdoor terraces so that the snow will melt, on those outdoor terraces so that people can use them, without shoveling them. light a fire and use the outdoors. We talked earlier also, the other thing that we're seeing a lot of is screened porches are making a comeback, because that gives you the opportunity to use the outdoors, even if it might be raining slightly. With heat lamps installed, you can extend the season well into November. I mean, look at the kind of weather that we're having now. And then you can open up your environments a little bit earlier in the springtime. So definitely people are asking us for ways to give them an extra month on either side, for sure, at the very least. So those are the things we're looking at.
Thank you so much, Tara, for that. Arnold and Jeff, this next question it goes to you, please. The question is, communities have become increasingly important as residents look to hike, bike, run, swim, shop, or visit a dog park locally. What changes or opportunities might there be for developed residential communities in Connecticut? And Arnold, if you'd like to start.
Okay, I was going to hand that off to Jeff.
Oh.
The problem we have in Connecticut, that's a great concept, but especially in Lower Fairfield County, we are 97% built. So when people say, boy, it would be great to have a community. So we're building one in New Canaan, which is currently the View. By the time I got done with planning and zoning and town, it cost me basically 2.5 years and $2 million for those approvals. We got lucky that everything has its own air systems, not knowing what the pandemic was going to bring. But I think it will become a greater reliance on public parks. People in the way the Northeast, in areas that have been well settled, it's not like we can go and find 35 acres and build homes and create great open space. It's going to be much more reliance on the facilities that are already out there in cases of town parks and great open spaces that people didn't realize that they had. Because this group can do whatever people want in their house and in their land, but we can't make their land any larger. And while people would say this is a great development style, not really sure that it's that available in Fairfield County. And we started this off by the discussion of Fairfield County being a bedroom community still of New York City. People still like the proximity. I assume that most of Robin's clients still say, geez, when New York reopens, we want to be able to get there. I'm very impressed when I speak to contemporaries of my children who are working remotely from great places. Charlotte, North Carolina, 1 or 2 in Florida. That's great, but eventually they're going to be needed back in their offices. And bedroom communities will be more important, because what people have found is the open space is really what they're striving for. We've built more pergolas and fire pits and swimming pools for people. And now it's the planning stage for next year, because the demand from the suppliers and materials, people will be booked well into 2021, no matter what happens with the vaccine. People have decided that, their home is important to them again. And that's been pretty much a different trend. 5 years ago, we were talking about right sizing. What's the right way? Now we're talking about how am I going to show up at the door, and where am I going to put everybody, give them outside spaces. It's interesting, Beth mentioned, making it feel spa-like. Those are very hard things for people to get their hands around, but they're spending so much more time indoors or in their screen porch or on their deck that, yes, home has become their castle again. But I'd like to say that, there are 5 or 7 new developments that the world is going to see, but really we don't have the space in Fairfield County. So it's really up to Jeff to come up with a way, I'm putting this on you, Jeff, to get us more land and create the housing stock of 2021 and furder.
Well, Jeff, that sounds like a perfect introduction.
Really? That was a pass
Hands
off.
off.
Well, it is kind of interesting because Connecticut, although there are some, Connecticut is lagging behind the times as far as other parts of the country for traditional neighborhood developments, for smart design. I mean, it has something to do with land, but it also has a lot to do with zoning. And what Arnold just said, 2.5 years, $2 million. We've worked with developers on these kind of projects. We worked on a project out in Madison. They basically the same amount of time, same amount of money, and that developer walked away and said, I'm not going to do any projects like this in Connecticut anymore unless I know before I go in that everybody wants it. And it's a huge battle that everyone's running into. But I want to go back a little bit. I mean, this is like one of the models of what we've always wanted in our projects anyway, the use of this proximity to things. People are starting to move in. I think it depends. I mean, if you have a family with 3 or 4 kids, I think you're staying home and you want to do everything on your own piece of property. I think as people get older and become more empty nesters, they're more into needing that they want to be able to walk into town, get coffee, get ice cream or whatever. So I think that I think is going to start, and Arnold's project, just to pat him on the back, I think leads people to do just those things. I think it helps a lot. It's proximity to the town and people getting out and having activities and having access to other people at the same time.
So much. Okay, so for our final question, each of you is a critically important part of the design build process, and your perspectives are unique because your clients look to each of you for different reasons. I would like to ask each one of you to please share what you think is the biggest opportunity in home design, renovation, construction, real estate, technology today. How does the pause created by this pandemic inspire you to reimagine residential design moving forward? And if it's okay, I'm just going to go right around my screen. So Robin, if I could start with you, please.
Yeah, thank you. Look, there's only so many new homes that can be built each year. And I think the biggest challenge is that for the first time, demand is way outstripping supply. Making older homes relevant to today's lifestyle is the challenge, and value engineering so that it's affordable for buyers to take the older homes and make them useful for today is the key nugget. I can't tell you the number of buyers I'm working with where we're considering older homes, we're bringing in architects and builders, and they just can't bring them up to today's needs in a way that makes sense from a dollar perspective. So I think that's a challenge I'm throwing out and a real need we have because we've got lots of buyers and we need to satisfy them.
Thank you so much. Chris.
Yeah, so I think that the big opportunity here for our industry is, again, technology. There's not less technology going into homes, and as we renovate and do new construction, it's vitally important that the wires are pulled for a strong network, that systems are anticipated, that the latest video resolution, 8K is coming now. You'll see 8K TVs. That's a very high resolution, high bandwidth. To make sure that you're getting the wire in the walls is a very important part. And I think there'll be more of spaces, like you might have a Zoom room. If you're a C-level executive, you need to have a very professional space if you're going to be meeting with people around the world on a call where there's, but easy to use and one button push. So I think I think technology is going to make it into more rooms of the home. I think systems that make it very easy to use are going to be really, really important. So I think that's the opportunity there. And it all is hinged on a really, really strong network. And that's been probably the number one call I'm getting now is my Wi-Fi is terrible. I want to make it better. And with really good network and Wi-Fi, all of the other systems in the house work better.
Thank you so much. Jeff, what do you think is the biggest opportunity?
I hope it's not my phone that's making noise, but I think I think what's going to be interesting. Well, I think everyone's focusing. It's kind of interesting to talk about older homes and bringing them up to speed, because I mean that's always what we've done all the time. We do that all the time. We've always done that. In fact, it's from you can go back and look at old farmhouses and see how they've been moved around the property, changed, added onto, and actually it's quite quaint and very cool looking, and probably better than a lot of the monstrosities that we're forced to build at this point. But I think that between the outdoor and local product, this is, I think, again, a good pause for people to spend more time and think about the environment they're living in. I think it's going to help a lot. I also think we have to keep in mind that technically there's going to be a vaccine out there. And it's going to be interesting about how, whether people, and hopefully they do, continue to use the fire pits, which I personally have built too many of them this year for myself. And hopefully all these things that we're adding in, because people can't get out, people will still remember, and oh, that was a lot of fun being outside, and dealing with their kids and working with their kids more closely, and dealing with the intergenerational thing.
Thank you. Beth, what do you see as your greatest opportunity?
Well, taking existing homes and making them contemporary modern is really what we've built our reputation on. So that's great. That's all good. If we have time, I was going to ask Jeff what he thinks of retractable roofs and walls. And, I've been reading a lot about that. Of course, we've been doing some living walls, and also I was gonna ask Jeff what he thought about courtyards. I've been reading a lot about people building homes back to looking at courtyards, so multiple rooms can face inwards. I just thought that was really interesting. But again, if there's time permits. But as far as for our roles and goals are, quite frankly, what we do day in and day out is problem solve, which is why, I am an avid reader, and we're always trying to think what we can do to make our clients' lives better, and so they can live their best lives. That's really what we do. So, yeah.
So I can respond to Courtyard. Retractable roofs. I got to think about it. This sounds like a great idea, actually. But I will tell you, courtyards have always been one of our major design elements in as many projects as we can possibly put them in, because we are really strong believers of, again, I know it's been said a couple of times, indoor rooms are an extension of outdoor rooms. And it basically means that you can have a smaller indoor room because you've got this large outdoor room. So courtyards are huge. I mean, again, for years, this is like a major design element in as many projects as we can get them into. So it really helps. It's interesting because if you go down south, they're way more focused on this courtyard outdoor room. I mean, I'm not going to say I necessarily like it. I mean, in Florida, they screen major rooms the size of houses, but it's really to make sure that everyone can still use their outdoor space year round. So they were way more focused. Even early mid-century houses would wrap around courtyards. And so no, I think it's not going away. And I think that's actually one of the things that people will continue to use. I mean, my own residence, we designed around a courtyard, and we ate all our meals out there. And that was where we entertained. People came over, and to be honest with you, although I think that had slowed down over the years, it's right back to being used all the time now. There's a fire pit out there. People come. We have a large dining table out there. Granted, it's 6-8 feet long, and so we have some people over, but it works. I mean, including Halloween, we had my niece's kids come over with their friends. Again, they all have created a bubble, so they were all safe, and they came over. We had the fire pit going. We had the kids making s'mores. I mean, they were pretty happy. I wanted the s'mores, but they got to eat them. But anyway.
Thank you, Jeff. Tara?
Yeah, well, of course, our overarching goal has always been, to get people to slow down. And, we all live such a frenetic pace in this society, to slow down and connect with nature. So, no matter what we design, that's our greatest hope. But I think in this pandemic, what we've seen also is that as people have been forced to slow down, they're also seeing the incredible value of the family unit. Hopefully, everybody has different experiences, and I know that's not always true, but hopefully, there's a silver lining there that people can focus on in terms of really continuing and maybe a rebirth of greater value on those outdoor living spaces. And aside from just creating those spaces, I think the other thing that people want is really to create, and this has been a buzzword for a long time, low maintenance and sustainable kind of things. But people don't want to spend a lot of time maintaining their properties. I always remind them that these, plants are alive, so they do need some attention. But our challenge, of course, and our opportunity is to create environments that help people to relax, slow down, connect not only with nature, but with each other, and hopefully bring families and friends together in a way where their outdoor environments are peaceful, that it's not overwhelming to maintain, and so that we're really responding to what our clients are asking for. But I think there's a tremendous opportunity there to create places, for people to find that respite that they want. And let's not forget too that while there may be a vaccine that's coming out, it's going to take a long time before that becomes widely available. So I think that we're going to be seeing all through, is certainly next summer, that we're all going to be much more focused on our home environments. But as Jeff and Beth and everyone here has said, we hope that is a trend that continues, because worldwide also, travel is way down. And so I think people are seeing value in, creating environments where they feel like they can stay home and really have a wonderful experience together, and not only live, but also work. So.
Thank you, Tara. And Arnold.
I think there's a new paradigm that we're going to be looking at, a total change, which is houses are going to become multi-generational, okay, that is a design component from the beginning. I think there's also going to be a march towards, I'll use the term affordable housing, but housing that is more affordable for a greater part of the population. I have a friend, Kevin, who's an architect. He thinks it's going to be a great period for great long-term design, that people are going to think not just for the next year or two, but with a 10-year horizon. And we'll also be looking at costs of all of these things. Movable roofs are great. Unless there's demand, it will take a while to get that to the cost of when we need it. And the one part, as the builder panelist, I always make people aware of, is that thing called permits, because after the fact, it's much more costly and time consuming. And I personally am waiting for outdoor plugs so that I can have heated outdoor furniture, because I think that's the best thing that will have come out of this pandemic.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you. A big thank you to all the panelists. I just would like to open it up for questions from our group. So if you have one, feel free to, here comes one. To the panel, from your professional perspective, and I should say this question is from Kevin Herrick. From your professional perspective, let's assume you're in the process of designing your own home. What is the one thing you would make a top priority, regardless of cost, you couldn't do without it, or you wouldn't do without it?
Would like to start?
Robin, go right ahead, Robin.
Based on what I'm seeing every buyer focusing on, it's right back at Chris with technology. Every buyer from the moment they walk in need to know that they can function out of the home. So I'd say that, followed by the use of natural light.
Yeah, so you can never pull enough wire in a house. When you're in the process of construction or renovation, it's a great time to do it. And so that's a real important part of supporting the technology in the house.
We have another question here from Rick Chapeau. Prior to COVID, building healthy homes environments was a growing area. Are you seeing increased interest in this area? If so, how are you addressing it?
I could take a piece of that, Tara, which is it's all about air intake, air exchange. Clients are much more concerned about their heating and cooling and just ventilation in the house. It used to be that if you could get it to 68 degrees in the winter and 72 in the summer, that was fine. That was the barest minimum. Now it's how often does the air exchange in my house and how can I make that better? So yes, I believe that will be an ongoing, I don't want to call it a trend, but something that people will be concerned about for many years to come.
Fantastic. Thank you, Arnold. Beth, do you want to add anything on that?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Sure. Prior to COVID, building healthy homes environments was a growing area. Are you seeing increased interest in this area? And if so, how are you addressing it? I'm just thinking from a wellness perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I know we hit on a lot of that. One of the things that we didn't talk a lot about was the lighting that Chris addressed, but yeah, to be able to wake up to like 5,000 Kelvin and have that sort of happy hit and then go to sleep with the 2,700 and have that all happen automatically in our lives and the circadian rhythms. And I mean, that would just be a lovely thing. So yeah, there's the wellness thing I think is more important ever than before. And the pandemic just amplified it. For sure.
So kind of the segue into that is we also are getting people and educating people to understand that the products that we're putting in the house, and are they green products? Are they real green products,
right,
not plastic green products? What's happening to this stuff after? And this is a big discussion we have all the time when it goes back to the point about buying an older house, which by the way, we encourage buying older houses because we find, I hate to say this, Tara, but we find the landscaping on older houses is actually pretty nice and very mature. But we have
Sometimes it needs a good refresh.
Pardon?
Sometimes it needs a good.
I said sometimes it could.
Yes, no.
Refresh,
I agree. I agree. Don't worry. I'm totally in your in Park. But again, the right products, the same, the right products that are going in the house that are going to last. We explain products to people and say, listen, we don't really want this thing to still be here for your great grandchildren. We want to. So and again, it goes back to supporting local artists. We always support local businesses. We use a lot of reclaimed materials in our houses, and we think that it helps bring a patina in that you can't normally get from only new products. So I think those are important things, and that people are paying attention to that now.
We have another question from Brigitte Anik. How do you see, and this is actually for Robin, how do you see the open floor concept being affected due to COVID? Are new constructions going back to more defined rooms?
I would say it's a blend. Folks still walk in and they are instinctually drawn to open spaces that allow light to pour in. But having said that, they still need a few rooms that give them the privacy that we've been talking about the whole time.
Great.
Well,
Thank you.
that's actually an interesting question because for years, well, still we are again educating our clients when they just want every room to be bigger and bigger. It'll be curious to see if now those people that have these rooms that are the size of some people's small houses, whether they still like those rooms.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Lisa O'Mara. Are many clients asking for pool designs?
Yes, yes, yes. And the problem there is that people want things that they can, there's an education involved. So what I'm finding, not only are they asking for pools, but the laundry list or the wish list of clients buying new properties, building new homes is very extensive. And so, we find that we really have to educate clients of how far their money will go. Like, what is your budget? And then they're very surprised to learn that, maybe I can only bite off 2 or 3 elements that are on my, 10, 12 item wish list. But, we're very adept at helping people to understand the best way to implement those over time. So let's create a big vision and see how we can help you step by step to get to that place. But to get back to the question about swimming pools, yes, people do want pools more and more. I think, water also is a very healing element. People also want running water, the sound of water. So waterfalls and water features are important. But the one thing to remember is that because so many people are asking for swimming pools, the swimming pool contractors are booked all the way into next summer. So trying to get onto somebody's schedule, is the tough part. And so, we're trying to manage a lot of things to help our clients, to make decisions quickly so that we can manage their expectations about what they want and when they can reasonably expect to have it completed. So,
But referring to expectations,
that helps.
sometimes they come with a laundry list of, I want a lap pool for me. I need a slide, a rock for my kids, a play area for my grandchild. I don't want to take up the whole backyard. And where would the fountain go? And we sort of have to do what I think Tyra mentioned and say, those are great, but you're only on a 1/4 acre of usable property at this point because of X, Y, or Z. So again, it's taking what people see or read in the journal and sort of right-sizing their pool or their cost expectation, because as we see, Robin has a client who buys a house and they decide that they're going to go renovate it, and they have watched some of the home renovation shows where they do bathrooms for $10,000 and $12,000. We can't seem to get them done at that number, not even at a 2.5 or 3 times multiple. Nothing goes as quickly. I can't finish their pool in a half an hour show. So we do sometimes have a little bit of an adjustment, taking a client who's watched it on HGTV and saying, well, out here in suburbia where it's really going to get done, the time frame is a little different. So it's not only what they want to do, but it's the time to accomplish it.
Arnold, that's a great point. Between the TV shows and Instagram, I think people are thinking things are done instantaneously and at a fraction of what they might be done at. So having a plan, having a list of priorities that you can bring to your design and build team, I think is so critical for people.
Definitely.
And
Of course, the one client I mentioned, I said you have to look at budgets and everything. They actually had pretty much an unlimited budget, so they moved on to the next contractor who seemed much more or less budget conscious. I said, you're quickly adding, $2.5 million. You might want to think about pieces over time. And they said, oh, sure. And they used somebody else. So Real life sometimes
It's
gets in
their
the way.
mistake, Arnold, their mistake.
Beth, would you like to add?
We just setting expectations thing. We've been running into appliances issues. From what I understand now, we used to get things in a week to two, and now we're into mid-January, beginning of February. Appliance parts, because they are overseas, they're running at like 50%, we're told. They think they'll be whole by July or August. They're going to be back to their 100% capacity. Just kind of throwing it out there so everybody who doesn't know that knows that, just to set those expectations. Yeah, it just seems like everybody dishwasher broke at the same time. So
Well, at one point, Beth,
Overuse.
yeah, and lumber. I mean, to Arnold's point, we were looking at there was a 170% increase since April. And, you know, Abby and I, my designer here, we were doing a little calculation. It added $53,000 to $1 million house, just the increase since April. I mean, it's just crazy. It really is. So we just have to set those expectations up front. Is it kind of, yeah, it's our
We have
world.
We have a nice comment here from Lee Overland. This is the last comment that we have. It says, thank you for this presentation. It has been excellent. Many architects are starting the discussion with their clients about sustainability and high efficiency homes. I've been implementing this with nextgreatamericanhomes.com website. ICF construction is becoming a request. I would enjoy having more of this conversation.
Very good.
And that's from Lee. Okay,
So-
with that, I will turn it back over to Roberta.
Thank you. Well, Tyra, first of all, thank you so much for stepping up and taking on the role of moderator. As most of this group knows, we had a very different conversation a year ago at Connecticut Stone. And, you know, I think most of us are feeling a lot more positive about the direction that things are going in since we had that conversation. But I'd like to really thank each and every one of you for taking the time today to participate in this. I feel like this was an excellent conversation and that each of you brought, you know, such value from your individual aspects of the design and real estate and building process. So again, appreciate it very much. And this will be recorded, so anybody who is still on can see this on our website if they'd like to go back and listen to anything they may have missed. And enjoy your day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.